Hello and welcome to episode 160 of the Podiatry Business Podcast with myself, Lorcan O'Donaile, podiatrist and owner of Podiatry Patients on Tap, More Practice Profits. So today's podcast is called Are You Stuck in the Chiropody Model? Essentially what I'm talking about here is the idea that you've built a clinic. You built a clinic and you primarily have low ticket items. So if I look at, say, the UK, it might be slightly different in the US, but in the UK, it's primarily chiropody. So you might be doing cut and come again. You might be maybe have a clinic full of people coming in just for a simple nail cut, that kind of stuff. And what you're finding is that you're getting a lot of patients coming in, but there's really low ticket prices and they're not really spending a lot of money. And while your diary's full and you feel busy, you possibly feel too busy, the profit is not there the way you want it to be, to make it worth the effort that you're having to put in. And I understand for a lot of people listening to this, that's what they want. They want to run a clinic that has just chiropody. That's cool, okay? But I do hear from an awful lot of clinic owners who they find that the business is not doing what they want it to do. They're busy, but they're just not making the money that they want. And this is aimed at them. So what will tend to happen is we'll tend to start a business, and this is the same personally for me, where we think we just need to be good clinically. And if we're good clinically, we will develop a business or in a clinic that gives us the lifestyle that we want. Now, if you're good clinically, if it's just yourself, you will fill your diary. That's no problem. But what you'll often find, as happened to me, is that you're tied to the business. You can't take a break from the business because it's so dependent on you and your skill set. And you don't know how to scale the business to the point that it's making you profit that doesn't require you to be there all of the time without killing yourself, essentially, to do that. And it is possible to do it. And the cost of staying in that old model is significant. So a really small example of that is a podiatrist in the UK I spoke to about maybe a year and a half ago, who said to me, it is soul destroying running my business. At the end of the month, I hope I have some money left to pay myself. Whereas all the staff are getting paid. And what they were doing is they weren't charging enough money, if we're honest. They were simply too cheap and they were afraid to put the price up. So very simply, I happened to be speaking about something else. We talked about this and we went through the numbers, and if we made a slight change to the pricing, they were able to give themselves a £27,000 raise. And that's literally what it was, because there was no extra cost. It was just to change the pricing. And that was just one of the things that can make a difference. And that's just one of the ways that the model, where it's just old style, traditional, I would suppose, running a podiatry clinic, can cost you revenue. Now, the problem with just relying or heavily relying on chiropody model is that you're going to find that, like that patient, it's a limited revenue per patient. Yes, you can change your prices, but it's going to be a limited revenue per patient. And indeed, if you're doing just nail cut only, it is very, very small. You're going to find that maybe you have a high patient turnover, so you have to get a lot of patients in the door to generate the same amount of money. And while you might have a relatively high rebook rate, that can be quite a while in between patients coming back. So it can take a number of years to get the lifetime value from that patient that you could do from the more modern way of running a podiatry clinic. Maybe what's happening is you as the clinic owner are finding that you're getting burnt out, that you're not enjoying the business anymore, and that essentially you're finding the cut and come again is just it's just like that lady said, soul destroying, and it's just not giving you the lifestyle that you want and what you hope for when you started the business. So there is a solution to this, and the solution is to try and implement into your business more modern revenue opportunities. So when I talk about more modern opportunities, what I mean is using treatment plans versus single visit appointments. So a plan of care that you're trying to do. So we're talking about creating more comprehensive care packages for patients. And we're talking about doing it in more high ticket items. So maybe we're talking about annual maintenance program. So for example, in my clinic, if you come in and you have a musculoskeletal issue that is chronic, if you have it, say 8-12 weeks, well, then the research tells us it's going to take 12 weeks for the soft tissue to recover. So we will give them a 12-week or a 3-month or whatever name you want to call it, plan of care. We'll explain to them it's going to take us 12 weeks, and we give them a plan of care where they pay in advance, or they commit to paying in advance for the whole plan of care, and we just get on with getting them better. And what we're finding is you're getting better outcomes for the patient because they're committing. There's less stress on the staff because they know they have the time to get that patient better. They don't have to necessarily come up with a result on every single appointment, which you often have to do when you do single appointments at a time or single paying appointments at a time. And the patients are happier because they know it's a fixed cost and that we're just going to get on with getting it better. So we're talking about implementing comprehensive care packages. Maybe you want to put in VIP patient services. So VIP patient services now have to have a real benefit. You can't just say it's a VIP. So it could be that you're always going to be seen within 24 hours. Maybe they have a separate phone number they can call or a separate email that they can get bypassed the queue, etc., etc. Thinking outside the box. Maybe what you're doing is you're implementing higher ticket items like laser. So for example, apexpodiatrylasers.com, which I'm also involved in, supplies and sells class 4 lasers. And not only do we supply class 4 lasers, but we do the marketing for them. So I'll talk about a recent client we had of ours that came along, and what we were able to do by implementing this higher ticket item and doing a marketing program for it is we were able to add in $8,000 a month into their business within 4 weeks. So this is the type of thing I'm talking about, putting in higher ticket items, MSK packages. And the thing in podiatry is if you ask people, have you done any packages, they'll say no. But when you ask them how to do nail surgery, they can say, well, I package it. So it's just applying that same thing to other conditions and other treatment plans, which allows you then to move away from the single chiropody appointments at a time and allows you then to build a business that is has higher ticket items, more dependable cash flow, and gives you greater profit. And if you package it as a treatment, you can charge a premium price versus chiropody, which in many cases people will keep the price low because they're afraid of what our competitors are doing, and therefore their profits are almost null and void. So what you want to think about is what is the psychology of this? How are we going to do? And what we're doing is when we've got people coming in and we're suggesting these higher ticket items, we're moving away from just chiropody and we're putting in place this packaging. We want to get them to understand why it's important that they say yes to a larger purchase price. So for example, instead of spending 50 quid on a single appointment, instead what they're doing is spending multiple hundreds, 300, 400, 500 on a package of care and committing in advance to do so. And what you have to do as the clinic owner is you have to understand the psychology of how people make decisions. You got to shift from the idea of it, the feature of what you're doing, to the benefits, because we make decisions, humans make decisions based on emotion, these kind of decisions. And we base our emotion off the benefits, the emotional benefits for us. So you gotta look into why that happens and how can you incorporate that into your business. Start thinking about why patients really come to you. So people don't come to you to get rid of pain. What they do is they come to you to get back to doing what they can't do. So you got to focus on the outcomes, not just the procedures. And that's hard for us to learn initially because we're very scientific. We're taught to be very rational. And what we have to do is move away from that and get into this, and start speaking to our patients as they're thinking, which is less rational, unfortunately. But if we don't, we can't get that patient to commit, to comply, and they're not going to get the outcome that you want. So it's important that you do so. So we have to speak to the patient of their goals. Maybe they want to get back to running, maybe they want to get back to golf, and so on. So what we're doing is we're looking at our business model and we're saying, okay, what I need to do is move away from single appointments at a time, maybe lower ticket items like chiropody in the UK, etc., etc. And we're moving to higher ticket items. If you're in the US, ideally higher ticket items that are cash only. Higher ticket items, for example, fungal nail. So fungal nail laser using the laser like the Apex laser I mentioned earlier. That patient, that's a higher ticket item. It's something that people are more likely to say yes to. And it's something that you can sell as a package as opposed to a commodity, which is what single appointments at a time often be. Once you've figured out how you're going to do this, and you've designed these treatment, more comprehensive treatment packages, then what you need to do is start marketing it. So you got to attract people and put it in front of people. So initially you'll start off, we would get our patients to start off, or our clients I should say, to start off marketing to their database, because it doesn't really cost them anything to market to their database. Go back to your previous patients, your emails, your so on, Facebook posts. And once you've done that and you start to generate some turnover from that, then you can move to paid ads. And what paid ads does, it allows you to scale, it allows you to measure, and allows you to almost on tap. That's why we call it Podiatry Patients on Tap. It allows you to on tap grow that treatment, that plan, those number of patients. Learn how to get people to say yes to what you need them to say yes to. Learn the psychology of persuasion or influencing people in an ethical way. In all cases, I'm suggesting what you do is you tell people what they need, not what you need. So if someone needs something, it's your job to get them to agree. Because, if you go to your GP and your GP needs you to take a pill so you don't have a heart attack, there's nothing unethical about the GP getting better at convincing you to take it. Same for us. That's the way it should be. And it can have profound effects on your business when you do this. So one client, and you can go to my website, morepracticeprofits.com. You can see it above me if you're looking on the video. And you can look at the testimonials page. And there are real life podiatrists who were in that position talking about their stories. One, for example, had 170% growth in their business in 12 months. 170%. So their business profits doubled by implementing this. So go and look at the testimonial page. You see how you can do it. And what you can typically find is that if you do this properly, you can make a massive difference to your business, a massive difference to your profits, and a massive difference to your business model and your stress levels, and make it a better business and better life for you. So typically our tagline on More Practice Profits, you'll see it on our website, is we double your profits in 12 months or less. So if clients come along and do what we ask them to do, they double their profits in 12 months or less. Just one client recently did so in 4 months. 4 months, doubled their profits while working less. So, and all ethically, not doing anything that you shouldn't be done, because that is not how we roll. If you're trying to do anything unethical, we don't want to work with you. So I hope I've convinced you of the need to not discard chiropody, and by no means would I say that. It's such an important foundation of your business, but to build from it. And what you need to think about now is, how am I going to change my business? So sit down, work out a 90-day transformation plan of how you're going to go from where you are to where you want to be. You don't have to do everything. Build a checklist of how you're going to do it, and just do the next thing. Implement what we call the next right thing. So if you have a checklist, and the checklist is quite long, which typically we all do as owners, we all have a load of things we want to do, it can become overwhelming. So all you do is you focus on the next right thing. What is the thing that's going to move that needle? Then you need to make sure that you're able to measure those metrics. So you have metrics that you know that's success. And that simple one to start with is the 5 times multiplier, which I dealt with in the last episode. The 5 levers you can pull to make a substantial difference, and you can check those numbers and look at those numbers constantly to see how you're coming up. Now, what I'll hear, I'm sure there are people listening to this saying they've got objections. My patients won't pay more. That's just not true. We find that is not the case. That value that people place is not based on numbers, not numerical. It's based on an emotional outcome that they get. And if we try to base it on a commodity or show it as a commodity, then we're going to struggle to get people to say yes. But the idea that my patients won't pay more is simply untrue, and it has been proven multiple times by clinics I see. Why are your patients coming into you saying, I can't afford that, yet they maybe have 2 holidays a year and they're on their £1,000 or $1,000 phone? Maybe you're saying, I'm too busy to make changes. Well, what if you don't make changes? And it's not like I'm suggesting that you have to spend your entire week doing this. If you put maybe 90 minutes a week aside to work on your business, to make changes to your business, you can see substantial changes to it. Obviously, it helps if you have somebody holding your hand like us who's done it before, and training and so on, swipe files and so on. But not always the case. But you can always make time to make this difference. Maybe you're going to say my staff won't adapt. And again, it's the same thing. It's learning the psychology of persuading your staff that this is the right thing for them and this is the right thing for their patients, because they're not going to do it for you to make more profit. Why should they? I mean, let's not be naive. But if it is the right thing for them and it is the right thing for their patients, which it is, then they will come on board. They will absolutely come on board. And then we get patients or clinic owners come along and are going to lose patients over it. And this reminds me of a mentor of mine who once said to me he had spoken to somebody who was running a gym. He was a personal trainer, actually, and he was doing one-on-one personal training. And he was completely full and he couldn't get any busier. And he went to this mentor and he said, what am I going to do? How am I going to make any more money? I feel like I'm wrecked, tired, I'm not making enough profit. And he said to him, double your prices. Now, it was more to just show him the idea. Double your prices. And the PT said to him, I can't possibly double my prices. If I double my prices, I will lose half of my patients or my clients. And he said, exactly. What will happen is if you double your prices and lose half your patients, then what's happened is you're working half as hard for the same amount of profit. And then you can then fill the rest of the diary with more people paying you the higher price. Now, it doesn't work quite like that, but you will absolutely, when you make these changes, it won't work for everybody, because what will have happened is you'll have attracted people who like your old model that suits them. But if you change that model, there will be some, and it's never as many as you think, it's usually just a handful, who might be quite vocal in their displeasure at this new opportunity. But at the same time, you're not in business just for your patients. You're in business to provide yourself with a good lifestyle. And if it's not providing you with a good lifestyle, you need to make some changes. And maybe you need to piss some people off. And that's what's going to happen. That's okay. What is the alternative? I mean, the alternative is you stay where you are, you stay stagnant, and in 5, 10, 15 years, you resent your business. You resent that you didn't make the changes. And I see it a lot. I see clinic owners come to me and they're worn out, they're burnt out. They feel like the last 10 or 15 years, whatever it was they're running business, has almost been a waste because they haven't got the outcome that they wanted. And that's not where I want you to be, whether you ever work with us or anyone else. That's not where I want you to be in 5 years' time, because you will be somewhere in 5 years. And it is up to you to choose where. So with that final effort, what I'd ask you to do, or final note, is go back, have a look at your business model and see, is it providing you with the lifestyle that you want? If it's not, start planning some changes. We're here to help in More Practice Profits. If you want, we're more than delighted to talk to you, and we help clinic owners make that change. So until next time, this is Lorcan O'Donaile, podiatrist and podiatry business coach, signing out.